Hello BookTube, my name is Kate and this is my channel Chapter Kate. Today is another video in my series, Reading for Self-Care. Today I'm going to be recommending 5 books that I read for reminiscence. And of course we have to start off with defining reminiscence. Reminiscence is a story told about a past event remembered by the narrator, or the enjoyable recollection of past events. Now when we look back on our past, we can either look back with joy, with happiness, or we can look back with shame or regret. We can also look back and have that bittersweet feeling of, oh, that was so great, but now I miss it. That's fine too. You're valid. Reminiscence is a really great way to feel fulfilled about your life and to feel grateful for your life instead of feeling despair that you haven't done enough. A lot of times we look back and we see, mistakes and negative things that have happened, especially when you're like, laying in bed at 3 a.m. You're like, oh, remember that one time I tripped in front of my whole class and my pants fell off? I don't know. Reminiscence is when you look back at those positive, happy, fulfilling moments in your life. So what kind of books are you going to look for if you're looking back and trying to reminisce? Well, of course, we're going to look at books that have positive memories associated with them. These could be books that we associate with certain moments in our lives, or these could be books that we associate with certain, feelings or certain situations that we may have been through. And this could be a specific book that you read in that moment, or it could be a book that you associate with a person that you remember, or a book that you associate with a specific place. There may be a book that I've never read, but maybe it takes place somewhere that I used to go when I was young. And so I can use it for reminiscence because it takes me back to that memory. The 5 books that I'm going to be recommending are all books that I have read in my past. These are ones that I have used for reminiscence. The first book that I'm going to mention is Stormbreaker by Anthony Horowitz. This is part of the Alex Rider series, and if you don't know about this, it's like a YA series. Alex Rider is like this international spy for military intelligence, and he's only 14. What? And he has all these cool gadgets, and he like faces these near-death experiences and like barely escapes and figures out through all the clues and blah, blah, blah. I used to read this series over and over and over again when I was younger because I wanted to be a spy. But now I can relate to those fun memories, like when I turned my closet into a secret headquarters and put like a little code thing on the side that I made out of Legos and made like this little ID card. I can remember when I got the walkie-talkie watches that I didn't really have anyone to, use them with because I was the only child, but I had them. And now I have a smartwatch and it's like I'm living my best life. But like this takes me back to those moments, so that's why it's really great for reminiscence. The next book is actually a series and it's the Looking Glass Wars series. The first book is just called The Looking Glass Wars, so like I think I remember reading this book in middle school. It was recommended to me by someone who I was in school with when I was 5, and then we weren't in school together, and then we were in school from like 5th grade through high school, like all that time, and we were really, really close for a lot of that, and he actually recommended me to read these books. So I read these books because of him, and I have a lot of really great and important memories from, growing up with this person, so this book helps me remember those memories. And because it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, it has that double power of also reminding me of Alice in Wonderland, which is a great story. But in the Looking Glass Wars, Alice has this power of imagination where she can just like create things, and the Red Queen also creates things, but she creates like creepy and evil things. I mean, obviously, and Alice is like trying not to get killed by her and stuff, and the Hatter character is like awesome, and his hat, he can like flatten it and like throw it, and it has like little blades and it can slice things. It's cool. It's really cool. It's by Frank Bedor. Bedor? The next one we have is Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. I barely remember what this book is about. I just remember it was my first fantasy book. I think she can talk to geese. Is that real? I can't tell. I don't know. But apparently it's a retelling of a Grimm's fairy tale. Yeah. And I legit can barely remember like most of this book, but when I think back to it, I remember it introducing me into fantasy and introducing me into the fact that like fantasy could have all this like crazy action stuff going on with like swords and horseback battles and chopping people's heads off and violence and fun stuff like that. So when I read Goose Girl, I'm reminded of, those adventures I took in my head and realizing that I can read books that aren't in this world, and that's pretty awesome. Thank you, Shannon Hale. The next is, of course, Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I think I read this like when I started high school. Everyone started reading these books, and these are great because when I read them, everyone else was reading them, and that's like the first time that I was reading the same books as everybody else, because I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter when I was growing up, so I didn't get to have that experience where like I read a book and like everyone else was reading those books too, so we all connected over that and all shared that fandom. But I did read Twilight when everybody else was reading Twilight, and yeah, there are issues with Twilight. There are totally unhealthy things that happen in Twilight, But I so enjoyed that experience of reading with other people, and so when I read Twilight, if I reread it, I feel like I'm feeling that all over again. Plus, I really liked that all the vampires had like cool powers because it was like superheroes, and that was neato. But if you haven't read Twilight, it's about this girl named Bella. She moves to Washington, the state. Apparently vampires love it there because the sun's never out because of all the clouds. There's this vampire named Edward, and he thinks she's just the best thing ever for some reason, and yeah. There's also like a werewolf that has a crush on her. I don't know. Also, Bella is like such an emo kid. Like, she's just like, life is boring, so I'm boring. And I'm very intense. And yes. I don't like the second book. Skip the second one. Go to the third. The third and fourth are the coolest with the powers and stuff. This is a great one. It's very tense. I like the third and fourth, though, because of all the superpowers. And then the last book that I might use for reminiscence is Philip K. Dick's Minority Report. Technically, this is a short story or a novella, but I have it like in this book that looks like a notebook, which is neat. And actually, I didn't read the short story, I think, until this year or last year. One of those. But the reason that it is like a reminiscence thing for me is because the movie Minority Report, I remember watching with my dad, because I used to watch a lot of action movies with my dad growing up, and that's a really positive memory from like growing up, and so it's one that I can like cling on to and like be like, this is a positive, awesome memory that I have with my dad. I have certain places that I lived where I don't have like good memories, but like when I think of the first time I watched that, like, that's a positive memory. I used to, you know, watch movies with him, and that was great. So that's why I might use this for reminiscence, because it actually puts, you know, a positive memory on a relationship that I have with a family member. So that's pretty great. And that is all for my 5 books that I read for reminiscence. Put your books below that you might read for reminiscence. Yeah. And this could be your favorite books in childhood, or books that help you, you know, take your brain back to some other time. I don't know. And if you would like more of this junk, please subscribe below. Bye! Tripping over shadows and I'm drowning in the night. I feel the soldiers coming and I'm putting up a fight.